We're live. Hi.
Hi.
This is our first time doing a YouTube live video here on CornerFringe, and my name is Mike, and this is my wife Dora, and part of the CornerFringe Ministries family. And we thank you for joining us tonight to have this very important call to action discussion about abortion and the crisis in America. But before we enter into that conversation, we thought maybe it'd be better if we open with prayer. So please pray with me. Abba, Father, Lord, we just ask right now that you would speak through us, that there would be hearts that are yearning to hear the truth of your word, that this conversation would not be concluded at the end of this video, but it would be the beginning of much more action from your children to defend the defenseless. Father, we ask for your blessing tonight in Yeshua's name. Amen. Amen. Well, so I think the good place to begin is, why do you think we're having this conversation right now?
Well, everything that's going on in the news, the Supreme Court decision, I think is a big thing. And I think everyone's talking about it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And we at CornerFringe, we are a pro-life church and community. And so we think it's important that we advocate on behalf of those that need to be advocated for. And one way to do that is through education. But before we get through all of our notes, we thought it would be good to tell you a little bit about our personal experience regarding abortion. So Dory, do you want to start first?
Sure.
Okay.
Well, a long time ago, 27 years ago, I can remember because I know how old my son is. I became pregnant in a situation where I was not married, and it was not a really good situation. And I definitely was not living for the Lord at that time. I was living very selfishly, and I won't go too deep into it. Not a lot of people know my story, to be honest. But I found myself pregnant with a partner that was not going to be able to be with me. And I didn't know what to do.
Yeah.
I was living on my own. I had a job that paid about $8 an hour. And it might have even been less back then. It might have been. I think that was later. I think it was $6 something at the time.
Can't even buy a gallon of gas for that.
Yeah. And so I really didn't know what to do. I knew that I did not want to abort my baby, but I was not sure if I was going to or what I was going to do. But ultimately, I feel like the Lord really provided. I wasn't really walking with the Lord at that time. He really does look after the single mamas out there. And so I ended up having him I was 22 years old and living alone, but I did have support from my family. My mom helped me a lot. But I am thankful that I did that. There was many years that I was a single mom. I was a single mom for about 11 years. And then until I met Mike.
Right.
And then Mike adopted my son. But honestly, those years that I was a single mom, I wouldn't trade them. No. I wouldn't trade them. They were good years, and I'm really close to my son, and the fruits of my labor are evident now. He's married, and he has 2 little boys that are just gorgeous. And I couldn't be happier with my decision. And unfortunately, I know a lot of women who feel otherwise about their decisions that they've made. And, my heart aches for them. It aches because
I know it does.
I feel like, they've been lied to a lot, and there's a lot of things that go into why a woman would choose to do that. But I'd love to see something change. I'd love to see us change that.
That'd be awesome.
Yeah.
Well, I wish I could tell you that my story was better and Dora chose life and she was noble as a single mother. I, on the other hand, um, was a man who was not a believer and had gotten a woman pregnant who I had pressured and encouraged to have an abortion. And honestly, it is by the grace of God that 3 hours before the scheduled abortion, this woman's mother convinced her not to have that abortion. And I've had to grow up with that, or watch my daughter grow up with that. And I've always confessed to her. She always knew. I never was, especially after I became a believer, I felt like I owed it to her to let her know just how bad and wretched I was. I remember doing a prayer chain with her in Aurora, and just begging her to forgive me. And so and today, right now, we're actually waiting for her to have grandbaby number 2. Yeah. So that's one of my experiences with the abortion. The other one is my parents divorced, and I found out many years later when my mom remarried that she chose to have an abortion. In fact, my little brother would be about 15 years younger than me today, and I didn't know that, and it really, I still remember when I found that out. It broke my heart. So abortion is not something we're coming at from a position of judgment. Mm-hmm. It's experience. No. And that's why we wanted to have this conversation tonight. Right? Mm-hmm. So I think that to address it head on, though, the issue that we see as the problem with abortion is sin. Right. And it's not just there are organizations out there that are going to point to the mother as the responsible party, the bad guy, if you will. Right. Mm-hmm. They shame them. They say horrible things. I've been there. I've seen them say terrible things to these moms. But seldom do you see the man being held accountable to the same standard or suffer the same experiences, right? And then there's the community around them. We have family and churches that are just not actively answering what the Lord tells us to say about abortion. And I'm going to give you a couple examples. There's a couple scriptures that I pulled up. You want to read that first one, James 1:27?
Yeah, it says, religion that is pure and undefiled before God, the Father, is this: to visit the orphans and widows in their affliction and keep oneself unstained from the world.
Yeah. So that is the role of the church, right? If we say that we have faith in Messiah, then we need to be taking care of the orphans and the widows, right?
Absolutely.
That's James 1:27. Proverbs 31:8-9 says, open your mouth for the mute, for the rights of all who are destitute. Open your mouth, judge righteously, defend the rights of the poor and the needy. And as we go through this, one of the things that you're going to find is a contributing factor to abortion is finances. So the poor and needy is definitely something that we see here. Another one is from Psalm 82, verses 3-4 says, give justice to the weak and the fatherless. Maintain the right of the afflicted and the destitute. Rescue the weak and the needy. Deliver them from the hand of the wicked. I can't think of a more perfect scenario to talk about an unborn child. Mm-hmm. We need to defend them from the hands of the wicked as a body, right? You want to read 1 Timothy? I think that's a really good one.
But if anyone does not provide for his relatives, and especially for members of his household, he is denied the faith and is worse than an unbeliever.
That's a hard pill to swallow.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Especially given my own experience. When I look back, obviously I wasn't a believer. And when I see this, I just feel so much shame because the reason I didn't want to have a child was because I didn't want to provide. I was selfish.
Yeah.
Exodus 22, the last word I want to give you is, you shall not mistreat any widow or fatherless child. If you do mistreat them and they cry out to me, I will surely hear their cry. You see, when I read these passages, God takes this matter extremely seriously. Mm-hmm. And that's why we're having the conversation tonight. I think another important thing for us to discuss, just to give you some background on this matter, and these were some shocking numbers that I looked up. And Dora's been looking at this a lot longer than I have. But did you know that 1 in 4 women will have an abortion in America? That's a current stat from this year. 1 in 4 women are seeking an abortion, whether through an abortion or the Plan B pill, right? Today, 2,363 preborn children will die in America. Today. Every 90 seconds, a child is aborted at Planned Parenthood. Every 90 seconds. So by the time we're done with this video, how many children are going to die? 20, 25? And this last one, and I'll give you some background on it, 60,236,165 abortions have taken place in America since 1973. But when I looked into the background of that, what I found out is that according to our laws, the states are not required to report abortions to the CDC. So this number is it's not even accurate. It's way below what the thing looks like. And all I kept thinking as I was looking up that data was, we just went through a pandemic where we lost 1 million people and the world shut down for 1 million. And yet we go on every day as if these 60 million mean nothing.
Yeah. Of the most vulnerable of our society, the most unprotected. What should be the most protected is the most unprotected.
Absolutely. Well, I think now would be a good time, hon. Why don't you talk to us a little bit about why? Let's talk about, we know sin is the root cause, right? Sin is the root cause. We're not going to walk away from that one. But what are some of the reasons that people make the decision to go and abort their child?
This is something, I hope I don't get too emotional, but near and dear to my heart, because I know so many women who've had abortions. I know so many. And it's people you wouldn't think. There's, it's just unbelievable. The people that I've learned and found out they've had an abortion, it's just, and they've lived with it. And it's a terrible, terrible scar in their life, a terrible wound. I didn't say a scar. It's just a wound. It's always something that they suffer with. And a lot of women don't think they can provide, or they don't have support. A lot of it, some of them sound selfish reasons, like having a baby would interfere with their life plans, education, or work. Only 12% of the companies in the United States pay maternity leave. So imagine if you are living paycheck to paycheck. I can't imagine. I was doing it, making $6 and something an hour and trying to have a baby and thinking, okay, how am I going to do this? Yep. How am I going to have a baby and take care of it and pay for groceries and diapers? And, it seems impossible. So it really does seem impossible. But, I think that we can help make changes in the workplace and things like that. That's something that I've been really convicted about lately, is just I have, just people around me that I would love to see have more benefits to be able to take care of their children. A lot of women don't have support. They don't have people that are willing to step up and help them with, just babysit or just come around them and love them and care for them and do nice things for them. I was very fortunate that I had family that loved me. But to be honest, some people weren't kind to me. Some people said mean things to me, and this was back, in the 90s. So I just, it was hard.
Did you,
sometimes.
When you say some people were unkind, are you talking family, friends, the church? I know you were active in the church at that point.
I had problems in the church. Yeah. And I remember I had started going back to church after I had my son, and I'll never forget the pastor saying to me, all the parents could come up on stage to have their babies dedicated. And so I said, well, I don't have a father for my child. So can my parents come up, or can my dad come up with me? And he told me no. If we did do that, we'd make a special announcement about it. And this was a big mega church, and that we'd be making an exception because we couldn't be doing that. And I look back on that now and I think, oh my goodness, like I just can't imagine wounding some woman like that. It stuck with me. It really stuck with me how that was painful. You go back up. I think we missed a few there. The other things are the birth control failing. That's why women will go in and have abortions. That most women are taking birth control or using some type of birth control, and it fails. Obviously, we wouldn't advocate for that. We would hope that people would be getting married and then would be thrilled to have children. But a lot of women, that's why they end up there. They don't, a lot of them might have been sexually assaulted. Being a sexual assault survivor myself is another thing I rarely speak of, but I know that can't be easy, but there are women who do go on to give birth. And to me, I look at that situation and I think, wow, to have an abortion after sexual assault to me would be a second assault on your body. Yeah. And I just can't imagine why anybody would do that. But a lot of women are talked into it, or, that's a lot of times what happens is women are coerced and they're talked into it and things like that. Pregnancy jeopardizes the parent's health. That's a big issue that you'll see out there, that you'll hear people talking about. Oh, the pregnancy is going to kill the mother. And when that situation occurs, I've talked to a good friend of ours who's an OBGYN, and I asked him, I said, what have you seen as side effects for like women who've had, abortions? And he's like, you name it, I've seen it. Women have had terrible side effects afterwards. And I asked him, like, what is it in the third trimester? Would there ever be a reason to have an abortion in the third trimester? He's like, no, Dora, there's not a reason. If the baby was ill or whatever, or sick or had a defect or whatever, we would monitor you. And then if we had to, we would take the baby by cesarean. And when you really think about that late-term abortion and the reasons people give, like the suffering or whatnot, and I don't know all the reasons. I'm sure there's some out there that I don't know about, and I definitely don't want to, be judging people not knowing every situation that's out there. But I would want people to contemplate this thought. What's better? If I had a baby that had a defect, would I want to hold that baby in my arms while it passed? Or would I want it ripped out of my womb? I think you need to ask yourself that question, and women need to ask themselves that question. They're just being told, you have to have an abortion, your baby has a defect, or whatever it might be. I've seen it. I've had it happen to me. You have to get in there and get that ultrasound at 23 weeks, because if you don't, what if there's something wrong with your baby and you'd have to get right in there to get an abortion? I mean, I couldn't believe they would be saying this to me,
I remember that, yeah.
So there's a lot of pressure on women.
Yeah.
They're not told the truth. They're encouraged to have abortions over and over. So, I mean, those are just some of the,
and a lot of this, as we have the conversation, obviously the whole issue seems to center around the woman. She's the woman. She's the one that people look at. Nobody knows who the man is, right? She's the one that has to physically sacrifice her body, financially jeopardize her future, and risk everything else. And so, but there are other people that are party to this, right? And that's what I want to talk about. I want to talk about these, husbands and boyfriends. And I'm legitimately saying husbands and boyfriends because one of the statistics that I learned in this preparation was that one of the reasons people abort their babies is because they already have too many children at home. And so somebody, whether the father or the mother, is making a decision like it's just too difficult. I think that was my mom's decision. It was like, we've already raised our kids. We don't want to do this. We're too old. It was inconvenient for them. And so these men, boys, we seek the physical pleasures of the flesh, and we want all the fun stuff of being married without the responsibility of being married. And we aren't being taught at an early age to respect women. And I think that's extremely, extremely important. I grew up in Chicago in a really bad neighborhood. I remember a young woman, she was probably 14 and I was 10, and she came home pregnant. And I helped babysit that child because my grandma was like, well, you're going to help. I was like, okay, grandma.
Oh, good grandma.
Right. Yeah. Grandma Rose was sweet.
Yeah.
But she was an outcast. Now, years later, I haven't been in touch with her, but from what I've seen on social media, her family has survived. And I give that young girl so much credit for making that. But you know what? I don't ever remember meeting the child's father, ever. And so I really think that men need to start being men. We need to put the responsibility on the men. Like this, it's so important. Another one might be parents or family members, right? Looking at you with disdain or judgment instead of like, listen, things happen, but this is a life, and we have to look at the greater good here. The greater good is protecting this unborn child in the womb.
One of the things that, sorry,
no, go ahead.
Interject. One of the things I always say to my kids,
that's a good one.
I don't know if I'm going to get in trouble for this, but
it's an analogy.
Kids are going to be kids sometimes. They do things, but I tell them, hey, you know what? If you're out and you have a drink, don't commit another sin. Don't get behind the wheel.
Yeah.
I mean, it's bad enough you sinned once, you did if you drank too much, that's one thing, but you don't add on to that with another sin. And I feel like that's the same thing with a birth, like pregnancy. It's, you don't add on to that by killing the child.
That's right. Yeah, and I think that's really important, is that
the child's not the sin.
Exactly.
Ever.
That's right.
Always congratulate a pregnant mother. Always.
Absolutely. That's a good one. I think the other one and I think this was the most shocking part to me, was knowing that there are abusers and traffickers, sex traffickers, who are literally pushing these young women into the abortion clinic so that they can get back out and earn them money. And I was like, I was really sick to my stomach thinking about that. Because it goes back to the man. In order to satisfy the flesh of a sinful man, women are being used as like sex slaves in 2022. And one way they keep that going is to murder babies. And so by participating in that, it's just so much evil on top of evil on top of evil. And all these are just some of the factors, right? We're not going to get through it all. In fact, we're running a little later than we had thought, but it's important that we have this conversation. I want to talk about like some of the risks and dangers. You said something to me. I had to make a note when we were putting it together. You said there's no such thing as a safe abortion. Somebody always dies.
Yeah, I remember talking to the youth group at my old church. I said, everybody all together, say it out loud. And if you're listening at home, just say it out loud. There's no such thing as a safe abortion. So the lie that they like to tell you is, oh, if abortion goes away, there won't be any safe abortions. There is no such thing as a safe abortion. Someone always dies.
Yeah.
And beyond that, there's many complications for the woman.
What are some of those that we're talking? We're talking about medical ones, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so tell us a little bit about some of these.
Well, and one of the things about abortion clinics is they're notorious for having health code violations. And one of the things I love to tell the youth is like, when you go to the abortion clinic, do you think you're getting the best doctor? I mean, you go to school for that many years, and most of them don't want to be abortion doctors. Yeah. They don't. You're probably not getting the best. You're probably getting the worst of the worst of the worst doctor that you can have that go into this. And probably somebody who's extremely selfish that wants all the money that they can get, because abortions cost between $500 and $900, depending on certain factors, but they're expensive. It's not cheap. And So you're talking about somebody who's probably really selfish. But some of the complications that they have is damage to the womb or the cervix, infection of the uterus, fallopian tubes, scarring of the inside of the uterus, septic shock, uterine perforation, death.
Mhm.
In the future, you can have preterm deliveries, breast cancer, pelvic inflammatory disease, ectopic pregnancies. Guys, I've seen some of this firsthand myself. Women who've had this stuff happen to them after abortions, STDs, chronic pelvic pain, mental health. Women who have abortions are much more prone to mental health and substance abuse, infertility, sexual dysfunction. The list goes on and on and on.
Wow. Wow. That's, there's so much that we should spend a lifetime talking about this matter, right? This is a time when the Supreme Court is about to make a decision that could affect the way our country runs, but it won't necessarily affect the way your states run. And so we as Christians need to be advocates. We need to actually respond to this call to action. That's why we do this thing. It's when you hear the word of the Lord, when he puts it on your heart, we should be acting. So let's talk about some things that Christians can do to be an active pro-lifer. And I think the first one that you and I both came up with, right, was here at Corner Fringe Ministries. We have a ministry called, it's Anoka. Is that the whole name?
Yeah.
It's Anoka,
I don't know
right?
what the name of it is. Yeah.
So it's in Minnesota. And Jason Berry oversees it. And what I really love about Anoka is his desire is to provide, like his goal, I think, is to provide childcare around the clock for anyone who has to work for like $1 an hour.
I think it's not quite around the clock yet.
No, that's his goal.
He's trying to get that.
That's his goal.
Mm-hmm.
And the Lord has been blessing them with diapers and wipes and formula and all the things that they need to be a pro-life agency. Like, so one way that a Christian could be involved in the pro-life movement is to go to a place like Anoka, find one in your community, and financially support them.
Anoka is the name of the town, I think.
Yeah, right. And it's, but it's called Anoka too. I know it is. It's on the website. It's on the Corner Fringe website, and I'll put it later in the link. Sorry, I should have made more details on it. But they're not the only place. There are places where you live right now that have places where single moms or suffering families, we see the financial crisis is hitting more and more people. Children are going to be the ones that are going to be more needy than anyone else. So you can be a pro-life advocate by volunteering, financially supporting, donating to a place like Anoka. Mm-hmm. And I think that's really, really important.
And can I just say, I would challenge everyone who listens to this video, go find your nearest crisis pregnancy center or what else? I'm not sure exactly what else they're called these days, but care centers. Yep. There are all sorts of different names for them. Find them, see what they need, give to them.
Yeah, absolutely.
Give to them. Mm-hmm. Yes, for sure.
Yeah,
educate yourselves on what is in your community, how you can help women. Educate yourself. So when you find someone who needs help, you can talk to people about this. Or even when you're talking to people about abortion. I mean, I've had so many conversations with people. Educate yourself. Watch videos. There's so many good people out there that are talking about this, and that you can, get yourself versed in this so that you know how to have a conversation with it. Get yourself versed in how to help someone who's in this situation.
Yep.
And give. Don't be selfish.
Yeah.
Give.
Absolutely.
Give up a Saturday to help a single mom. Buy her some diapers, buy some formula, love them. You wouldn't even understand how much that would touch someone to know that you care.
Absolutely. Absolutely. There's another agency that we've been a part of as a family. It's called Safe Family. And Safe Family is it's an alternative to foster care. And it's a Christian alternative where you would take family, help a single mother. A lot of them we've been with are single mothers, a lot of the children that we've been with. And these parents are in a crisis situation, and you take a short-term period, could be a day, a weekend, 6 weeks, a couple months, and you take on the responsibility of loving that child. You can read. We used to read Bible stories to the kids, make sure they got medical care. It's a heavy responsibility to take on, right? But when you do it, we had this one girl. We had her for a couple of weeks, and it was really challenging. And then about a year later, we ran into her at a restaurant with her mother, and you could just see the difference. And all it took was sharing your food. She didn't require her own bedroom. She just needed a place to stay, and needed mom was getting treatment. So you were able to not judge and just you could be the hands and feet of Christ. And I was really, really touched by that. We put down, talk to your kids. What does that mean to you? Because this is being proactive, right?
Yeah.
Because if you think about what we're doing here, this is nothing. The schools, the communities. Do you know that a child can literally walk into a Walgreens and get a Plan B pill, an abortion pill, and nobody has the right to check their ID to see if they're old enough. But if I were to go buy a firecracker, I have to make sure you're 16 years old. We live in a society that the deck is stacked against us. So how do we have the conversation? What are things that we should talk to our children about to help proactively prevent abortion?
Oh, definitely that you love them. That if they were to come up pregnant, that you would love them. If you have sons, train your sons right. Teach them that, if they make a mistake, that they're responsible. They have to take care of that. Yeah. They can't walk away from that, and killing the child is not the answer. But for girls, the shame that goes along with that, and make sure your kids know that you'll love them no matter what, that they can come home and they can tell you, and that you'll help them. And help them. Help them. I know a lot of parents that have walked away from their kids and said, you did this to yourself. You're dead. Yeah. You're on your own. Yeah. Or they just are, the kids are just too afraid to tell their parents, and they end up getting an abortion because they don't want anybody to know. Yeah. I feel like I've seen and heard it all. I'm sure I haven't. I'm sure there's a lot more stories out there, but I sure have seen a lot of them like that.
You have. And I think it's important that we have conversations with our children about their value. Like, we need to teach our daughters how valuable they are, how precious they are, not just in the sight of the Lord, but in the sight of the parents. Yes. Make them feel value at the home so that they don't have to go seek value elsewhere.
Right. You want them to be like, we were talking about this, like, who do you want to be the father of your children? Yeah. Do you want it to be somebody who doesn't value you or doesn't respect your body? You want it to be somebody who's going to love you and want to marry you before they lay down with you. And I think that's really important conversations to have with our kids.
Yep. For sons, we want to raise our sons to be protectors, defenders, virtuous and strong, with great character, who love the Lord, and to get them to understand that waiting for marriage is the best thing to do. It's just, it's something that we've learned because we didn't do it right. Right. We're not going at it with our children or anybody else saying, hey, look, we did it right and you better do it the same way. We're telling you all the things we did wrong, and it's by the grace of God that we are where we are today. So having that conversation with your children is important. As a church, I think it's important that we educate ourselves. We cannot put our head in the sand any longer. It's the time's up. You had, like Dora said, we need to find that local crisis pregnancy center and just adopt them. Take them on as a church. If you can go to the abortion clinic, we've been there. Pray for those women. I love what you said last night. We were talking about this. You said, don't go empty-handed. If you're going to go to an abortion clinic this weekend, bring a box of diapers. Bring some wipes. Bring something that shows that you are coming as an ambassador for Messiah with love in your heart. I think that might be a far greater alternative than what we're seeing out there today. So, any other things that you would, any ways that you think that you really want people to understand we can get involved to take action today?
Just one closing word I know we're going to go a little bit further, not too much longer, but I just want moms to know, or anybody that would be in that situation. And I would like us as a whole, as a body, as a church to say, it's an honor to be a mother.
Mm.
It's an honor. It's beautiful. It's my greatest treasure. And I said to my daughter today, I said, it's hard to be a mom as she's facing another labor. And carrying this child. How many days is she past due?
She's
like
9 days overdue right now.
9 days overdue. And,
Yeah.
That's no joke. And all the sickness that she's had to go through, it's no joke. It's no joke. But it's worth it. It's worth it. I can't explain. There's no greater joy that I have than being a mother. Mm-hmm. No greater joy. I would walk through fire. I would do it all again, even if it was 10 times worse than anything I'd gone through. I would do it all again. We're fortunate. And I know that there's a lot of stigma around women. There's a lot of victimhood around women. And there truthfully is. Women can be very much victimized. But we can also be triumphant. And we can rise up. And I feel just so blessed to be a woman, that I get to feel a lot of things that Michael never get to know. He'll never get to know what it's like to carry your child and to give birth, and how empowering that is, and to nurse your child, and to just have all those feelings that a mom has toward her child. And, I'm sorry, man, you'll never get those awesome feelings, They're precious. It's not a burden. It's not a burden. Mm. And I just want to, give that message to women out there, that it's the greatest gift you can ever have. Mm.
Well, I'd like, from one woman to any woman that's listening to this, what would you say as a Christian woman to a woman who has already made the decision, has already had the abortion? What would you say regarding that, about God's mercy and grace?
Yeah, now you're going to make me cry, for sure.
Well, this is your chance.
I have a lot of people close to me that have gone through this, and I love them. I just love them. Put my arms around them. I'm not innocent. I'm not innocent because I haven't done all I can do. There's been situations that I could have done more to save a life. And so I'm also culpable. I'm also guilty. So ask for forgiveness for yourself and everything that you've done that you haven't done for life, that you haven't done to save a child. And, tell them that there's forgiveness. Tell them that they're loved, that God wants to forgive them, but they have to repent. I mean, I am a firm believer in repentance. And the godly sorrow that God has given me towards the situations that I've been in when my younger years, and even in my older years, things that I just, I could have done more, maybe. I just feel like, we got to wrap our arms around these women and just love them and tell them about the Lord.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Grace is available. You have to recognize the sin that you've done in any circumstance, but there is no sin that our Savior can't forgive us for. If we put our faith and trust in Yeshua, there is hope. And so I would just say to any woman out there that has been through this, you are loved. That is not how you should be defined the rest of your life. It's not how the church should look at you. The family should look at you. Your spouse should look at you. You are beautiful in the eyes of the Lord, and He wants you so desperately to cry out and to be forgiven. Because frankly, I was the bad guy. And if He can forgive me for being the bad guy, I guarantee you He can forgive you. And I think the thing that I would do is I would encourage anyone several of you stayed with us. Thank you. I would encourage you to get involved. Get involved, whatever it takes. You don't have to be a warrior. You can be a prayer warrior. You can contribute financially. You can donate. You can find somebody that maybe you live near, work with. Like Dora said, take a single mother under your wing, because she's telling stories. By the way, that's how it multiplies, right? I think one of the biggest factors in this issue is that the young women, and by the way, I looked at the stats. It's like 20 to 30-year-old women is the number one category of people having an abortion. But they've heard how hard it is to be a single mother. And so the next generation's hearing it from the older women, and they're like, I don't want to go through that. I don't want to lose everything like she did. So I'm going to abort my child. But if we became a community where single mothers were seen as people that were valued, they were beautiful, that we could support, that children could be raised up and the bodies could support, that right there might end abortion. And I think that goes back to the scriptures that we started with, right? The one that really, there's so many that hit here, but this idea that we are to give justice to the weak and the fatherless, maintain the right of the afflicted and the destitute, rescue the weak and the needy, and deliver them from the hand of the wicked. Psalm 82, 3 and 4. That is what we as Christians are supposed to do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, just my closing thoughts, I would say, encourage everybody just to get involved, educate yourself, and take action. If you see a single mom, do everything you can to help her, have baby showers, give her diapers, give her rent money.
Watch your kid.
Watch your child. Ask her, can I help you? Is there anything I can do to help you?
Invite her over for dinner.
Yeah, invite her for dinner.
Make her part of the family.
Yeah, you don't know like what that would mean to someone. I can't say too much because there's a lot of people that, but it means a lot to these women when you take them under your wing and help them out. So I think if we as a society, as a church, if more women would see the support they're getting from the body, they wouldn't be so scared to go ahead and have that baby, Yeah.
And we've learned that fear is a great motivator. Satan wants to use that fear to drive women to abort their children. So.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. My wife has put a lot of effort and thought into this, and this is a subject near and dear to her heart that she's very passionate about. So we appreciate all of you spending your time with us tonight on the call to action, and we hope that you will join us for worship service this weekend at the Corner Fringe channel as well. So shalom.
Shalom.